Joining me for another week, Football Friday, which of course comes out on Thursday afternoons officially, so you got plenty of time to consume it. The head coach of the Evergreen Park Mustang football team, the 2-1 Mustangs, Jim Ramazinski. Coach Ram, how are you, Coach?
Good, thanks for having me.
Listen, you lose the first game. I remember you kind of describing it on the show afterwards, and I felt like, just me listening to it. I don't know if you felt this way, but like you may not have as easy of a time getting wins this year as you were really successful last year. But then I see you get a big win in week 2, and then that's a shootout to begin with. That's 80 points scored in the game against a rival, and you took care of them. You had a big second half. You won it. You're 2-1 now, and you're riding a high. How do you feel at this point in the season?
We feel pretty good. I mean, it was a nice win on Friday night against Oak Lawn, which is, our biggest rival school. There was a really big crowd there Friday night, which was cool, and it was our first home game. So it was exciting to get out there, get in front of the home crowd, and get a big win in front of a bunch of students, bunch of fans, bunch of parents. It was a good night.
Two things. My son went to that game, first off, okay? And he came down to watch it. He was out there visiting a friend, and he went there and watched that game. And he told me, it was a fun game. I mean, he didn't know what to expect. He had never been to one of your games before. And I think he was describing that first half that was really quick. Everything was happening very fast in that. And then he's like, and then they kind of took control. And that final score, 49-31, means that my scout that was out there, he had at least a good idea of what was going on at the game.
He could help us watch the film.
But on the other hand, there was something before we get into that I was noticed before the game, and I've seen the video of it. You guys ran through some sort of a tunnel. First of all, what is it? Is that a horse's mouth that you're running?
It's a Mustang.
Okay, it's a Mustang
that
you're running through. So you got some Metallica that comes on. The guys are hyped. I looked at this video online, and then I see you up at the front, and I'm like, he's leading them out. Like, you're right in the front. Like, you poke your head out. I'm like, oh, they're going to hit the big moment. And then you move off to the side, and you cue the boys to the moment that the music's going to crescendo and they should take the field, and then you step out of the way. So one, I'm disappointed you didn't run out there with them. I want to see more of that. And two, do you feel like a guy of our generation, you felt like you had to make sure they knew the moment that song expected them to bust through?
Well, that was the first time we did it, and they weren't prepped for it.
Okay, but you knew the exact point.
Yeah,
and they coming out to the, and you knew. You're like, this is the moment, guys.
Yeah.
If you were counting that song down.
Well, we can't just set that up every day, so we didn't practice it. I know that sounds crazy to practice a run out, but you'd be surprised. And yeah, I didn't really want to run out because I didn't want to fall or trip or look like a fool. So I did my countdown and the Irish goodbye and just let the. But it was
a total Irish goodbye.
It's
like, if you're paying attention to the video, you slink off to the side, kind of walk behind people.
Yeah, it's about the boys though. Like they don't, they were excited about it. So I'm glad that worked out. And more important than that, I'm glad once we got going, after we kind of settled in a little bit, we were able to take care of business.
Yeah, so the quick start, let's talk about that. I mean, both teams are exchanging volleys immediately. Why do we see that sometimes in games? Where is it just the excitement of it? People are missing assignments. People are just not ready to go. We talked about that, the hype early on. Does that happen to both sides early because of that?
There was just a lot of big plays early, and I think part of that has to do with both teams, being very excited for the game, but also too, I mean, we missed an assignment that led to a big play on defense. So that led to the first score. We come back, it's 7-0. We come back. I think we score in 3 or 4 plays, 7-7. We kick off and Oak Lawn returns the kick for a touchdown. They go up 13-7 because they missed the extra point. And then the very next kickoff, we return for a touchdown. And so I'm looking up at the scoreboard and it's 14-13 and it's 7 minutes left in the first quarter. So it was a pretty wild start, but it was good because, we got punched in the mouth first, to be honest. And our offense did a great job all day. They responded. O-line was taking care of business, and David Johnson had himself a day. 270 rushing yards.
Yeah, it's rushing back to me now. When I asked my son about the game, he goes, "You got a pretty good offensive line. They were playing really well." And I said, "That's good to hear because I think that was a concern point." Remember, we talked about them getting kind of winded in that first game a little bit. That was kind of a concern point, and it sounds like they were really solid.
Yeah, they had a good day. They're just getting better each week. Our offensive coaches, Darren Yarbrough, Jason Fonducci, and Matt Paschakarnas, they really are working hard, and those guys have responded, the offensive players. And it was a really good night for them. And like I said, David getting, 270 yards rushing, averaging over 10 yards a carry, 3 touchdowns. It was great to see him have a big night with the help of his teammates.
Did you go run heavy? Like, was it one of the things when you got to the second half and you were like, okay, that was just a little wild at the beginning. We need to slow things down a little bit and take control of the game? Is that something that you think about?
Yeah, at one point we had, we were pretty much up the second half we were up by 10 points at least, pretty much the whole half. We went up 24 at one point, and, we had a lead, so we're just running the ball and continue to have success. So why not keep doing it and keep the clock moving?
Awesome. Okay, so big stars of this game. Who do you got?
Like I said, David Johnson was a big star. The offensive line, which is Dominic Nava, Devin Herrera, Armani Bravo, Josh Love, and Anthony Luna. They had a great game. Rowan Smythe continues to do well at quarterback. He ended up, what did he throw? 2 touchdowns, one to Caleb Kaiser and one to Tyler Phelps, who is a sophomore. Got his first varsity touchdown. He's also our backup QB, so it was good to see him get some playing time as well as get in the end zone. And that, I think it's kind of good because each week I'm talking about a different sophomore.
Well, and that's important too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about this before. You sent 6 guys off to college scholarships. Like, you graduated some guys that were high talent guys who went on to programs at the next level. And so you got to find those young guys and you got to start figuring out who your next group of stars are, right?
Yeah. And I mean, the guys that we're keeping up have responded well. I mean, we have 5 sophomores that, are on the field for us. Not every play, but a lot of plays. And, even like a small thing like Cole Nardo, our kicker, he's on the soccer team as well, but he's a sophomore and 7 for 7 on extra points. I know it doesn't sound like some crazy feat, but he hasn't missed an extra point all year.
In high school, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's not automatic in high school.
Yeah.
I've been to plenty of high school football games where you're like, okay, everybody's excited because you drove down the field, but you don't know whether or not that kid's going to put that through the uprights.
Yeah, no, exactly. And then as the game progressed, sophomore Corey Isaac getting some carries, did a pretty good job keeping the ball moving, keeping the clock rolling. So, yeah, we had contributors from them. And then, a guy who is a very pleasant surprise and probably our most exciting player to watch, Arshawn Powell, came through for us with a big kick return. And he's fun to watch. We'll just leave it at that.
Kick returns, like, what do you start running down the sidelines? Anytime I watch like a pro football game, college football game, when that starts, the coach instinctively starts running with the player. Do you find yourself running with him in that moment because you're like, holy cow, he's breaking it?
I think we already had a sideline warning at that point, and I think it was my fault.
Okay.
So I
had
did
to stay
not.
still.
Yeah, I did not. I was definitely excited, though. I mean, it was a big play for us to put us up 14-13. And then, after that, we kind of were able to settle in and start playing our game. And, when we got to the second half, in the third quarter, game was fairly in hand, and we didn't feel 100% comfortable, but you could kind of slow down a little bit and make sure you just finish the game out with a win. Before
we get to your next opponent, talk about that crowd. Because you had your that's the first time we're on the new field, right? Mm-hmm. And it's also a rivalry game, and there was a little bit of hype for this thing. And like I said, I had a kid that doesn't even go there that went down to go see that game. That was an event on Friday night. Talk about what it was like to get those guys in front of their home fans.
It was good because we always say, when you're at practice and there's nobody in the stands, things like that. It's easier then than it is the game because you don't feel that external pressure of all these people watching, your peers, your parents, your family, your friends. And, to see our guys, I think, initially when the game started, I think the moment was kind of people were caught up in it, but then we were able to settle in, and it was great to see us put together a good second half, a good second quarter, and get the win.
All right, Coach Ram, let's talk about Thornton Fractional North. This is that interesting game that happens every year where you have your conference you're in, there's a mirroring conference on the other side, and this opponent is selected based upon where they finished in their division, essentially. Mm-hmm. So you guys finished second, so you're getting somebody who also finished second last year. So you the level of competition is at least at the same level as you were a year ago. So as you walk into this one, are you both still two strong teams? Are you two teams that have evolved a little bit? You're not exactly sure what you're running up against. How do you look at this team and prepare for them?
Well, TF North's a very quality team. Typically, historically, and I don't know the exact numbers, the SSC Blue, which is TF North's portion of the conference, they've had a lot of success against the SSC Red. So the red teams, us and the teams that we play every year. But, I'm pretty excited about this game because it's a good challenge for us. They're undefeated. Last year, they almost won the conference. They lost by, like I said before on this, I think they lost by 1 or 2 points to to Lamont last year. And Lamont's a pretty storied program across the state. So this is not a team that you could take lightly. And with a 3-0 start, they're doing a really good job. They're well coached, and we're looking forward to the challenge on Friday night, and hopefully get out of there with some success and get a win.
It's hard for me to kind of ask you questions about what type of team it is, right? Because I know that these teams evolve so much, but I've noticed there's some teams that they've got a team and then they've got a couple of stars, or they've got a team and this team is just really well coached and put together in a way where it's more of a team effort what they do, or they're really strong on defense, or they're really good with their run game. If you had to describe TF North in one of those categories, is there one that stands out more to you?
They have a couple really good athletes who could score on a dime or run down a play pretty easily. They are well coached. They had a lot of success last year, and they're kind of continuing to build on it. They appear to be pretty run heavy, but we'll see what they do on Friday night. But we're definitely excited for the challenge to play a team that has a lot of quality players and is well coached.
And when you play a team like that, your line has to be good. And again, it goes back to what was observed on Friday night. The line playing well, seemingly improving. Is that where you're going to have to establish what you're doing early on in this game? Is that the most important thing?
That's one of the most important things. But again, I think it goes back to with this particular group of EP players, we just got to get out there and get going right away. And, even against Oak Lawn, we did on one side of the ball. We had a defensive letdown, a special teams letdown. We kind of made up, or the special teams letdown. But one thing I said at practice yesterday to the guys is, imagine if all three phases are just playing as good as they can.
Right.
Then now, and I'm sure a lot of coaches have said that over the years, but it's the truth. If we could execute better all three phases and kind of play a consistent game, defense, offense, special teams, obviously our chances of success go up. I feel like, offense was on, defense was struggling a little bit on Friday night, kind of settled in as time went on. But in order to be a really good team, you can get away with that once in a while. But once you start playing higher level competition as season goes on, or playoffs, hopefully, you got to be executing at all sides of the ball. And that is something that I would like to see we do this week. If we can do that, good things will happen.
Friday night, 6 p.m. on the road at Thornton Fractional North, who are undefeated 3-0. The 2-1 Mustangs will be taking them on. Coach Ram, good luck to you and the boys. Let's go get another win.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
It's the EP Podcast. All things Evergreen Park. It's the EP Podcast. Evergreen Park.